obviously travel through time. Will they also travel between worlds now that multiple Earths have been introduced on the Flash?
No, that's their purview. If we travel between planets, they will be actual planetary bodies and not sort of metaphysical versions of Earth. Yeah, I think time travel alone is enough to tax our puny humanist brains. So multiple Earths is more than we can handle.
So that we do have the possibility of other planets in our solar system.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine that the space that we travel through is the space that's really out there. Because I do believe that there's things out there that are. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's a number of planets in the DC universe that are populated. Might we see Thanagar or
Ran?
Yeah,
Ran.
I think our season is the Earth is in such dire jeopardy that for us to sort of take it upon ourselves to start being the Galactic Police is probably more than we can handle. It's not just about time travel. It's really sort of focusing on the sort of historical events of the 20th century. We're not going to be going back and seeing dinosaurs and Roman gladiators and that stuff. We're really focusing on 20th century. I mean, not yet.
Well, keeping into the 20th century, there are characters in this universe like Robert Queen or Tommy Merlyn who are dead.
Right.
Might we see them on Legends of Tomorrow?
Absolutely. And to see descendants of people we know in the future as well.
Can you tease anybody that we will see in this first few episodes?
No, I can't tease anybody precisely.
We were talking to Victor earlier, and he was mentioning you go back in the 70s, and his character was alive back then. So, what sort of perils and challenges does having the same character at two different ages present?
Oh man, well we got super lucky because we found a kid who's a dead ringer and a bit of with a gift for impersonation. So in that case, we were just super duper lucky. But yeah, it's hard to put out those casting calls. When you're we need a 20-year-old Victor Garber, we need an 80-year-old Stephen Amell. It's your pool gets very, very small. But
So we're going to meet 80-year-old Stephen Amell.
I want to meet a 80-year-old Stephen Amell.
Will he still be shirtless?
I hope he's really just doing his sad little salmon planking.
And does he have a son?
And
Is he married?
Where's
you guys
Felicity?
just want the happy ending? What do you? Do you not watch these shows?
Because he still love Felicity.
Yeah, we're gonna go in the future. It's just it all turned out. It's perfect.
They moved to the burbs.
Nothing's
It's
wrong.
well, I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
when you are looking at a show like this and you have to go through so much time with so many characters, including characters that you don't really have ownership over, I imagine yourself with something with Oliver Queen, you can't really say, okay, well, he's suddenly, married with 45 kids if you don't know that the Arrow writers are doing that.
Yeah,
What
but
kind of conversations are you guys trying to negotiate, obviously with Andrew and Mark and their involvement in all of everything?
Well, I mean, the interesting thing about the show is that, they leave 2016, whenever we premiere, presumably January, 8 o'clock, Monday nights, whatever we are. And, the idea is to go travel through time, vanquish Vandal Savage, and then return to the moment you left. And so if you do that successfully, nobody knows you're gone, the world continues. The only variable that's been changed is Vandal's gone. But the problem is, in doing so, you change millions of other variables. And so, part of the fun of the show is you have the Uber mission, stopping Vandal, but then you have the missions that you sort of accidentally, unwittingly cause. The idea that, if I accidentally, in Cold War Russia, let the Soviets know that they lose, or I drop a piece of tech in battlefield in World War II. You can create your own sort of disturbances in time, and then you also have to go back and correct that, because if until you return to 2016, it's and so part of the fun is screwing things up, just to see the consequences of our team's actions. But as long as you have a time machine, you have the ability to counteract whatever you've done wrong. That's a long way of saying that, we get a huge amount of latitude because we can fuck up the world of Arrow and Flash, as long as we're not like fucking up the world of their show in 2016, the episodes that are taking place right now, because presumably, we can always, right the ship.
So will we get a chance to see these fractured
Yeah.
timelines where they go back, they screw something up,
Yeah.
come back? We'll get to
Yeah.
see like what the
Yeah.
world could have been like
Mhm.
if.
Yeah, and that's one of the sort of tech elements of the show is that we have a version of Gideon, the computer from Flash, where it's the 2166 version of Gideon that can extrapolate the sort of our effect on the timeline and sort of show us like what are the seeing stones in Lord of the Rings, whatever. It's like it's a version of the Polaroid in Back to the Future. We're able to like use this computer to sort of tell us what we've done and sort of like give us sort of a glimpse into the future to know the consequences of our actions.
Well, we
But
see.
so
Talk
based on
about-
that, does that mean that Arrow and the Flash will not be directly influenced by what happens in Legends of Tomorrow?
I mean, it just has to be very, very selective. I mean, I the shows, the crossovers, all share the same DNA. There might be one more chance for them to come back together, but it requires that sort of planning is like that's a real like math and science. Which isn't to say that characters can't appear on our show, but the idea that our plots will affect their plots will affect our plots, that becomes a mind bender.
Can you talk to me about the excitement of bringing Katie Lotz into your show
Yeah.
and bringing her back from the dead?
It's crazy. Like in New York Comic Con, just that shot of her like coming out the Lazarus pit with her awesome deltoids, and like she could like people lose their minds. Like, and we're kind of little inside, and so like you don't really know how the rest of the world feels about things. But when you see like that, it's really like it's amazing to. I really like this version of her in our show because she is just so lost and haunted, and I the sort of assassin like or like a samurai without a master or whatever. Like I mean, she really when we find her on our show, she is gone to the ends of the earth, like just trying to like either find herself or disappear, and she's just such a tragic character, and even though she's a badass, for me her stories are all sort of about like her trying to find human connection and like to get back what she lost when she was resurrected. I really like the idea that being brought back in the Lazarus pit, that that blood has to be repaid with blood, and that she's not, that there's something missing from her, but like to give her that sort of possibility of redemption and have that be in the form of love or romantic or finally finding sort of surrogate family within our team, like as motley a crew as they are. Like I think that like there's something really sweet about it's kind of like a family story, just because I mean Snart is like an abused kid, Rory Burns got him housed down, like Stein and Clarissa never had kids, Ray lost his fiancée. Like everybody comes in with just like a little hole in their person, and kind of a lot of baggage, and but beneath all the sort of like power and bluster and humor, everybody's like really, really in need. So like, I almost feel that like the Wave Rider's kind of like a halfway home in a time traveling halfway home, where you have these people who they kick ass and they want to save the world, but they're also like there to like get their lives back together,
And just a quick
Just the Wave
follow-up on
Rider.
that. What is the main difference that fans should come to expect for White Canary versus Black Canary?
Oh, I mean, I always get nervous. I mean, I just I feel when Sarah has a send off from her sister in our pilot, you know, each of our characters sort of goes to the person who sort of, they're one sort of like touchstone, like, you know, they go to the person who sort of their sounding board, emotional sounding board, and, you know, her moment is obviously with her sister, and, you know, when everybody leaves on the Wave Rider and they travel in time, I think the, you know, presumption is that they might not be returning or might not be successful on this. So it's like, it's heavy. It's like going off to war. And so, you know, like when her sister says goodbye, like, you know, I think she, you know, I think she wants her, you know, wants Sarah to live in the light, and, you know, and, you know, to find a purpose. And, you know, I think she's, you know, she's moved beyond the League of Assassins, and she's, you know, trying to find you know, a way of you know, living in the world that doesn't involve cutting people's throats.
So is the Wave Rider the name of the ship?
I was not supposed to say that. Yeah.
I couldn't
Well,
help.
Yeah.
When you have a show about time travel, it can be hard to keep the stakes
Yeah.
up and alive, because you can think that realistically, if someone dies, if something terrific,
Yeah.
something terrible happens, you can always go back and undo that.
Yeah,
What is
not,
it?
yeah, you can't do that on our show though. I was explaining to those guys that, you know, we introduce a rule that, you know, you're able to go forward or backward in time, but one thing that you can't do is to sort of, you know, just hit the rewind button on events that you participate in. So it's not like Groundhog Day where you can endlessly, you know, do something again and again and again and again until you get it right. If you screw it up, and if it ends with somebody dying, a member of our team, you know, you know, people will die on this show. You're not able to just be like, well, that sucked. Let's, you know, try it again. You know, you know, I agree that would take a lot of the intensity out of a story if you had that ability, and that's why we took it away. Yeah, we want people to be dead for good when they buy the farm.
Do any of these individual team members want to use the time travel to alter their own past at any point? And, you know, go rogue on their own?
Totally. Yeah, I mean that's really the fun of the show, because yeah, I mean, you do have the Uber mission, but there's a lot of downtime, and if you're sort of exploring, you know, your own past, and you know who wins the Super Bowl, or you know that your mom's going to get in a car wreck, and you know that, you know, you could be at the book depository in Dallas on whatever November '63. It's hard to resist the urge to, you know, do what you think is right for either the world, or, you know, do what's right for yourself, for your loved ones, and then, you know, Hunter as a time master, you know, spent his whole career trying to preserve the timeline, and, you know, he understands that it's never as simple as it seems, and for every one variable you change, there's a trillion sort of unforeseen consequences, like down the road, and some of them, you know, killing Hitler could result in something even worse happening conceivably, and so he tries to tell our team to resist the urge, as crazy as it sounds, and, you know, of course they're not going to do that, you know.
Vandal is an immortal character.
Yeah.
And that seems like an insurmountable challenge for these characters.
Yeah.
Like, how do they deal with that? How do you guys deal with that as writers?
Well, I mean, we wanted to get under the sort of like mechanics of his immortality, because it's, you know, before you can stop, you know, his power, you have to sort of understand like from where it's derived. And so, you know, the fun of that is, I guess I lied to you guys. I said that we didn't really travel too far back in time, but we will, you know, go back to the origin story of, you know, ancient Egypt, and to understand how, you know, Vandal was originally affected, and yeah, I mean, there's always a loophole, you know, with anybody's powers. There's always an Achilles heel, and, you know, he's no different, but yeah, it will obviously require a bit of a miracle.
Can you talk a bit about the dynamic of the team? Because obviously we have these heroes, but then you also have a couple of dirtbag criminals who are constantly ruining things in Central City. So, like, how does this come together to the point where, like, these people will actually work together and function as a unit?
Well, I mean, I think it sort of speaks to just how formidable an opponent Vandal Savage is, that you need the sort of number and variety of heroes to go toe-to-toe with him. You know, I think, you know, I like to think of our shows like The Dirty Dozen or Inglourious Bastards, or one of those great great escape, you know, where, you know, you always need a Charles Bronson on your team. Like, you need somebody who will do just the, you know, the dirtiest of dirty work, because, you know, if it were just a bunch of Ray Palmers, you know, probably nobody would do the unspeakable acts. But we have Snart, you know, he does them just for fun. But, you know, why I like characters like that is because you get to get under the pathology and just try to understand, like, why does McRory do that? Why does Leonard Snart, you know, it's not like villains are born, you know, of course they're like done wrong by the world or the people who love them, and, you know, they're broken, pathetic little creatures underneath their, you know, bluster and violence, and, like, I find them, you know, totally fascinating. Yeah, as fascinating as any other hero.
Will we see Rip Hunter's chalkboard?
We haven't talked about that yet. I don't know.
I was curious, besides being immortal, does Vandal Savage have other abilities?
You know, I do, I mean, yes.